an iconic 1944 steam locomotive.
If you ask a child to picture a steam engine, this is the image that comes into their mind.
Weighing in at a staggering 125 tons.
But just as far back as you can get it, please.
Can an expert team haul this treasured engine and its tender over 250 miles without damaging its precious frame?
You ready to roll?
The crew must battle
Go on, try again.
meddlesome machinery,
Hold it.
tight turns,
Back in clear.
and treacherous temperatures.
My truck already says it's 24 degrees now. It's only 9:15.
To deliver this enormous load on time.
Margate we're going, are we?
A titanic task, even for the world's toughest trained truckers. The Severn Valley Railway is one of Britain's longest heritage lines, weaving its way through 16 miles of glorious Shropshire and Worcestershire countryside.
We have 5 viaducts, a bridge over the River Severn, a couple of railway tunnels. It's got everything that a railway is expected to have.
This single-track line with 8 stations has been a heritage line since 1970. It's a major tourist attraction.
In a normal year, Severn Valley Railway carries something in the region of 200,000 passengers on our trains, so that's a lot of visitors in the year enjoying the whole heritage experience that we offer.
The original line was part of the Great Western Railway network.
The Great Western Railway was one of the big 4 private railway companies in the 1920s. GWR was known as God's Wonderful Railway. It was a good innovator. It invested in its locomotives and its staff and its trains and was widely regarded as a good railway company.
From 1944 to the 1950s, the backbone of the network were GWR modified haul steam engines. They were pulling everything from fast freight to long-distance passenger express trains. One of the Heritage Line's most loved engines is locomotive number 6960, a modified haul class called Revenningham Hall.
The GWR traditionally named its locomotives with themes. So there were the castles, and then the kings, and there were the counties, and then there were the halls, which were named after halls across the UK. Revenningham Hall was a hall in East Anglia, and that's where it takes its name from.
It is a locomotive that I have a huge fondness for. It was one of the first locomotives that I really got involved in a start-to-finish overhaul. It acquired a nickname at that time, Ratbag, and it's been known on the Severn Valley as Ratbag Hall ever since. I should stress that's an affectionate nickname. Most people on the Severn Valley really love Revenningham Hall, or Ratbag Hall as we like to call her.
But now, Ratbag Hall's steam safety certificate, called a boiler ticket, has expired.
Steam locomotives have a boiler, and they have to be safe. A boiler malfunction or explosion could be very, very damaging. A boiler typically lasts for 10 years. It's a bit like an MOT.
Revenningham Hall's boiler operates at 225 pounds per square inch. That's a really quite high pressure. And because of that, it comes under regulatory requirements as a pressure vessel, and it has to have a full examination, which means stripping it down completely, removing all the internal tubes and so on.
Until Ratbag Hall is safety certified, the engine can't run on the line. Fully restored, the locomotive is worth over £750,000. To protect the engine from the weather while it waits for its inspection, it needs moving to a specialist storage facility. But just one thing stands in the way: 250 miles of busy motorways and winding roads. 35 miles southeast is a company that devises unique solutions to problems like this.
Look at this.
Family-run firm Alleles
Alleles heavy-haulage.
are experts at the challenging task of moving heavyweight railway locomotives. Founded in the 1950s by Maurice Alleles, the business has grown from a small agricultural mover to become one of the trusted names in the heavy haulage industry.
We can move anything.
Massive abnormal loads, enormous steel girders, and super long lengths of pipe, as well as locomotives of all shapes and sizes, are just part of their day-to-day operations, both in the UK and around the world.
Moving trains is a very specialist industry, and we're one of the few companies within the UK that can actually move these big trains and locomotives.
Nobody expects to see a loco on the back of a lorry. There's never a day when you see it where it's not impressive.
And today, the crew need to be at the very top of their game.
Loco and tender from Severn Valley Railway Bridge North, and you'd like to take that to Margate. Not a problem.
This steam engine weighs in at a colossal 77 tons and is 10 meters long. Its tender, which carries the coal to fuel the boiler, needs hauling with it. The tender weighs 48 tons and is 9 meters long. This is going to be a two-truck job. The difficult route will make delivering these massive loads even tougher. Starting from the Severn Valley Railway in Bridge North, Shropshire, the engine and tender face a 250-mile journey on some of the country's busiest roads. Heading east, then southeast to London. And as they head closer to their destination, they need to take a 30-mile detour to avoid narrow roads and weak bridges to reach the specialist storage facility in Margate. It's early morning on the day of the move. First task for the Severn Valley Railway team is to shunt the engine to a section of the track where the trucking team can load it up.
Yeah, so for now, we'll just bring it in and stop it here, and then when the border shop's open, we'll push it in that last bit.
Measuring nearly 20 meters and weighing 125 tons, the coupled engine and tender are too long and heavy to fit on one truck. So the next job is to detach them.
Just take the pins out, and then we'll be able to separate engine and tender, is the plan.
But the pins that join the engine to the tender are buried deep beneath the footplate floor.
It's a bit awkward.
If they don't come out, this historic rolling stock isn't going anywhere.
Not yet. I'll turn around and go in from the other side. Hopefully I'll be able to reach better. Two drawbar pins out.
Job done. With the engine and tender separated, the loading can begin. Taking on this mega move today, our drivers, Zach Bancroft.
Going forward, then you're going to have to go quite hard to the left, bro.
And Colin Chisnell.
I'll go right back as far as we can.
Supporting them is escort driver Luke Beeman.
Yeah, 2 sugars in my coffee.
Before they can load up, they need to navigate their trucks through a narrow access lane into the yard. There's only centimeters to spare on each side.
All clear, mate. Keep going.
As Zach steers the truck, Luke uses the remote control to independently steer the trailer's wheels.
All clear, mate. Keep going.
Now inside, the team need to load the tender onto the truck. But there's a problem.
Because of the way around that we've got to load this tender, we're actually on a bend where the line goes into the building. Yeah, we need to be as straight as we can. We makes it very awkward trying to load on a bend.
The track corners round just as it comes out of the shed. So the crew must build their ramp right onto the bend. If they don't align it perfectly, the load could end in disaster. The tender could keep following the curved sunken tracks it runs in and tip over. It weighs in at 48 tons, so there'd be nothing tender about that.
So we're effectively trying to straighten out the bend.
Before they build the ramp, Colin reverses his truck to line it up as best he can with the rails. While he reverses, Luke steers the trailer into position.
Just take me back straight as far as you can. What's the verdict?
Just creep forward.
You need to stop as soon as you can. Are they straight? But you're about a foot that way. Because the further we get, the worse the bend gets, doesn't it?
With the trailer lined up, next job. Load the 48-ton tender.
Carl's bust out the new gloves today, look.
Yeah, I know.
He's got the traffic warden gloves on.
To do this, Zach and Colin must build a ramp from the back of the trailer down to the rails and reinforce it with heavy blocks of wood.
It's just the right height there, isn't it?
Ramp complete, Zach hooks up the winch. And the tender slowly crawls up the rails.
Go on.
The slightest deviation
Go on. Go on.
could cause the wheels to derail.
Hold it there.
With the tender loaded, now the crew face an even bigger challenge. Loading the giant engine, which is almost 30 tons heavier.
Go on.
In Shropshire, Zach and his team are halfway through loading a Great Western modified haul steam engine and tender onto 2 trucks. The historic rolling stock is being taken out of service while it waits for a safety inspection. It needs hauling over 250 miles to a specialist storage facility in Kent. The journey will be tough. They will start by heading east, then south towards London. Then they must take a 30-mile detour south to avoid narrow roads and weak bridges, before heading back north to Margate. With the tender safely secure on Colin's truck, now the team need to load the engine onto Zach's trailer. But they're struggling for loading space in the Heritage Railway's small yard.
With that fantastic burst.
33 foot.
To load the engine on, we need more room, which we haven't really got on that side because of the bend into the shed, and also you've then got to get the tractor unit to the back of the trailer. We just haven't got enough room at both ends to be able to do that without being on the bend, which is what we're trying to avoid. I'll get moved over and I'll probably just pull down to the shed so I'm out of the way, and then you can just go behind me,
Yeah.
and then shut the loco, yeah.
But they're going to have to... How am I going to get past the loco?
No, we'll both come in first, then do the loco after.
Okay.
I'll go and turn it on.
Zach has come up with a plan to use the adjoining track to temporarily move the engine out of the way. Then they'll use the 2 trucks to shuffle the trailer back and forth into place. But it's going to be very tight. Loading this locomotive will be a major logistical challenge. First, they must shunt the engine to the end of the concrete pad. Then they need to use truck 1 to drive the trailer halfway into the shed and park truck 2 at the back of the trailer. This should give them just enough space to squeeze the engine backwards on the second track and for truck 2 to take its place. Then truck 1 must reverse and drop the trailer in front of the locomotive. And truck 2 needs to back in to winch the locomotive up the ramp. It's a clever plan, but any bumps in their mechanical ballet will be costly.
Still clear, man.
It requires precision driving from Zach to nudge his truck into position, while Luke independently steers the rear axle to guide the massive rig. He positions the trailer as tight to the edge of the yard as it will go.
Keep it as close to the fence as you can, but without obviously hitting the fence.
Still clear, mate.
Now Colin, in the second truck, parks it at the other end of the trailer. Next job, position the engine onto the second set of tracks.
Yeah, it's just as far back as you can get it, please.
To maximize loading space, they need to push it to the very end of the track. Zach uses 2 wooden wedges called chocks to mark the spot they need to aim for.
It just gives them something to go up to, doesn't it?
The 77-ton engine has no handbrake, so they'll need to shunt it slowly.
Keep him going a touch more, mate, please. Yeah.
With the engine at the end of the line, Zach reverses the rig into place. There's no room for error if Zach's plan is going to work. Zach's reversing is spot on.
Yeah, perfect.
The trailer is in the perfect position for the team to load the engine.
Right, we'll do that then.
But the lack of space in the cramped yard is proving challenging.
With the Loco, because it's longer and there's more wheels, you have to do a shallower ramp, so it is a longer ramp.
The crew had planned to build a long, shallow ramp to load the engine, but it won't squeeze into the small gap between the locomotive and the trailer. So instead, they're forced to build a shorter ramp, which is steeper. And then use the smaller winch, which is normally used to haul much lighter engines. So pulling the heavy engine up this steep incline could strain the winch to its limit. The crew build their second ramp of the day to carry the giant engine up onto the trailer.
That 4-inch that you've put in there, will that go down a bit further? 'Cause that's our finished block, isn't it?
I've got this one down further.
Ramp ready, the team needs to take great care winching this precious engine.
There was a chock the other side, have you got it out?
Colin keeps a watchful eye on the wheels to make sure they stay on track. But without warning, the engine grinds to a halt.
Go on, try again. Go on, keep going. Keep going. Stop.
The lighter capacity winch is struggling with the weight, and the engine is stuck. The team need to think fast.
Have you got a snatch, or do you want?
I've got a snatch block. That trailer is really for lighter loads and carriages, but the winch is set up for that. All I'm going to do is just put I'm going to put what we call a snatch block in, so it'll double the strength for the pulling power.
The winch has no problems pulling the engine on the flat. But as more and more of the heavy weight transitions onto the steep ramp, the harder the winch must work. Until finally, it reaches its limit. That's where the snatch block will come in. It's a simple pulley looped onto the cable. It acts like a gearbox for the winch, allowing it to pull more slowly, but with twice the power.
I'll go and put some chocks behind it.
No. It's all in the swing, you know.
Luke, we need some more cable out, please.
Right, I think I've got enough.
That'll do. Hold it there.
Colin hooks up the end of the winch and they're ready to try again.
Right, Luke.
To you, mate. Go on. Go on. Go on. Hold it.
It's working. The engine slowly creeps up the ramp.
All good round it.
Yeah, this side's okay as well.
After a long and testing struggle, the engine and tender are finally loaded. But it's cost the crew valuable time. It's now 2:45. The team have a 250-mile journey ahead of them, and they need to hit the road before rush hour traffic.
I suppose it's the physical bit done, but the hard bit's getting out of town, really.
First challenge, the team need to maneuver the two trucks off-site.
Going forward, then, you're going to have to go quite hard to the left, bro.
Zach leads the convoy and maneuvers his truck carrying the engine first.
All right, mate, get it across as much as you can, mate, because I don't want to lean towards the building.
Navigating the empty trailer in here was a challenge. But leaving with a 77-ton locomotive on the back is even more difficult.
Stop bringing the back when you're ready.
It's over 200 meters back to the main road.
All clear.
There's only centimeters to spare between the trailer and the parked cars.
It is going to be in the tree a bit in a minute, but just keep over to the right as much as you can, yeah?
Zach's relying on his teammate Luke to steer the trailer's wheels around the obstacles.
All clear, both sides.
It's a tight squeeze. But finally, the lane gets wider.
Come on, keep going, mate. Keep going, keep going. All clear, bro, all clear. Keep going.
They've made it out of the yard without a scratch.
All right, mate, bring him over to the left for us. We'll try and get some of this traffic cleared.
But after taking so long to load, they are behind schedule. It's time to make headway on the road. In Shropshire, heavy haulage drivers Zach Bancroft and Colin Chisnell have loaded the 78-year-old Great Western steam locomotive and tender onto their two trucks. And with escort driver Luke Beeman leading the way, they're gearing up to make the 250-mile trip to Margate in Kent. Back at base, their route has been carefully pre-planned by Amy Turner, and they can't deviate from it.
Within my role, most of the obstacles and challenges are quite literally bridges. Over bridges, under bridges, viaducts, you name it. Wherever it is on the road, I'll know where it is.
From Severn Valley Railway, the plan is to go east, then south down towards London. The size of the trucks and the weight of the loads forces them to take a 30-mile detour south before heading back north up to Margate. To reach the motorway, the team need to navigate through the narrow streets of Bridgnorth. But there's a bridge the trucks are too heavy to cross. So to avoid it, the convoy must take another route and has to climb a very steep hill.
You on the way up?
Escort driver Luke must alert Zach and Colin of any obstacles ahead. Positioned on a tight bend, Zach and Colin must hold their heavy trucks on the hill until Luke gives them the all clear.
I'm going quite slow.
Some slow-moving traffic holds things up.
So the last one going down to you is the Silver Skoda. Yeah, I can see him. That tractor's coming past me at the moment. That's it, keep going.
As the trucks reach the top of the hill, they face another challenge.
Keep going, Zach. Keep going.
A sharp left turn.
Keep going, man. Park your van and jump out back to the roundabout and then we'll come up.
The turn is so tight that Zach's truck is dangerously close to a house wall. And he needs Luke to be an extra pair of eyes and help avoid a potential demolition. Having navigated the town, the convoy can pick up the pace. For safety, heavy haulage drivers can only be on the road for 9 hours in a day. And they must also take a break after 4.5 hours at the wheel.
You know what? I'm really hungry.
With only 30 minutes of their allowed driving time left, the crew need to work out where to rest up for the night.
I'm just looking at the time now and thinking parking now tonight.
Yeah, okay.
Worth £750,000, this locomotive and tender need to be kept safe after dark. Luke has an idea.
Go back to the yard and start early in the morning.
Their company base is along their route. It's the perfect rest stop to keep the engine and its tender safe and sound. And the team will get to sleep in their own beds. But with 226 miles to go, and a giant steam engine and tender still to deliver and offload, tomorrow will be a busy day. 7 a.m. the next morning, Zach, Colin and Luke are ready to go.
It's not very often that we do get back to base during the week and go home for the night, yeah.
Today, the crew have got to drive 226 miles. From their base near Studley, they need to drive southeast, then detour south to avoid narrow roads and weak bridges, then head back up north to Margate.
We've got sort of probably 7 hours worth of driving to get from here down to Margate. We'll get on with getting the loco and tender offloaded. Do you want to go out in front of me, Luke?
Yeah, man.
It's an early start, and the temperature's already rising.
My truck already says it's 24 degrees now. It's only 9:15.
Yeah, well, mine's actually rating 26, but how true it is, I don't know. Mine's 22.
It did say it was going to be hotter today than it was yesterday. Great.
Yeah.
The sweltering heat will make this drive even more of a challenge. Heavy haulage crews can only drive for 4.5 hours before they must take a break.
You all right, Cole?
Yes, mate.
What about you, Lukey bloke? You all right down there?
Sound bloke.
So getting the engine and tender to Margate on time is going to be a huge undertaking. Their destination is the former Hornby model trains warehouse on the outskirts of Margate.
During Hornby's ownership, this whole building was racked out floor to ceiling and with pallets full of Hornby sets. They'd be stored here and then shipped out to the customers in the UK and around the world.
In the 1990s, toy production moved overseas. And in 2014, this warehouse found a new purpose, storing historic locomotives.
So it's interesting, isn't it, that where there used to be miniature railways, there are now the full-size real things.
Now the site is home to many of Britain's most prestigious trains from the past century. including the iconic A4 bittern, built in 1937. It's the same class as the Mallard, the fastest steam engine in the world. The luggage coach that was the hearse for Winston Churchill's funeral in 1965. A Class 47 diesel electric from the 1960s, and an original Eurostar locomotive built in France in 1995.
It's such an important part of our history. The railways played a massive part in the whole British way of life from the mid-1800s onwards. And it's quite right that these should be preserved for future generations to appreciate.
It's the ideal location to house the Great Western steam engine and tender, while it awaits inspection before returning to service. It's now 4 o'clock. The team have made it to a stop point on the outskirts of Margate. The storage facility is an industrial park, and there are time restrictions on when large loads can access the site.
The other units and factories, they kick out at 5 o'clock. So we don't want to be anywhere near there because we'll just snarl the place up.
After an hour's wait,
You ready to roll?
I think so. You back there, Luke?
they set off on the last 6 miles of their journey.
Pulling off then, Cole.
Yeah, man.
There's like a keep left railing and curb here, Cole.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. I'll keep an eye on it for you.
With 39 years of driving experience between them, Zach and Colin easily navigate their 2 massive 3-metre wide trucks through the narrow streets of Margate.
There's a lot of room there, isn't there, mate?
There certainly isn't.
The arrival of the historic engine draws a crowd.
So we're turning left at these lights, Carl. So can you just keep an eye on the traffic lights for me, please?
As Zach nudges his rig round and onto the estate, Colin, in the truck behind,
Okay at the moment.
keeps a close eye on his tail.
Well, you can put some more on now if you want to. You're clear of the traffic light now.
Now inside the industrial estate, the super wide trucks have to squeeze past parked cars.
2 more axles and you'll be clear of that car. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Right, you're clear of the car on the right.
After 2 days
Be about 2 foot off the gate here now.
and 250 miles on the road,
A little bit more, keep going. A little bit more. Yeah, that'll do you, mate.
Zach, Colin and Luke finally arrive at the delivery destination with the classic steam engine and tender.
Finally.
Before they can let off steam, they need to unload.
But the back of the trailer's going to be here somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
The rails that the engine and tender need to be offloaded onto sit on a raised concrete platform 1 metre above the ground.
Fish plated them to here, because there's some fish plates there for it. I've got a couple of like 4-inch bits of rail
Yeah.
set into that. They've got the rail raised here. We don't offload over the front of the trailer, we have to back up to it and unload over the back.
To offload, the team need to reverse up to the loading bay and precisely line up the rails on the trailer with the tracks on the site.
It's a bit of a challenge, as we like challenges every day.
Zach, Colin and Luke are moving a locomotive called Revenningham Hall, affectionately known as Ratbag Hall. They've safely delivered this vintage Great Western steam engine and tender to temporary storage in Margate. but unloading it will be their toughest test yet. The facility has a raised loading bay, so Zach and Colin will need to offload in reverse. Access into the building is tight.
We're about 2 foot off the gate here now.
Zach, while you're getting in line, I'm going to go and grab the rail and everything and bring it over there and see if I can get it connected.
But getting through the entrance isn't the only issue. Once inside, they'll need to line up the trailer perfectly with the rails on the loading bay.
Just attaching these rails now, just so that they will back the trailer up. And the trailer, we've got slots in the back of the trailer on the back, and these will come up to that. So everything should line up nice and straight. That's the plan. We like a good plan.
It's going to be a 3-person job.
Do you want to shunt forward, both of you, while you can now?
First, Zach must back the trailer through the narrow entrance. He's relying on Colin to guide him.
I can't really tell whether I'm in the middle of the doorway or not, so I kind of need you to tell me whether I need to go over one way or the other.
If you take a bit more off now, just get yourself straight and then come back.
Luke steers the trailer.
You definitely need to go to the left, Luke. You keep coming at that, you're fine at that. If you take a bit more off now, that's it.
They've made it inside.
That's looking good.
Now, Zach must line up the slots on his trailer with the 1-meter high rails.
Run up if you can now. 2 foot, 2 foot. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Right. Luke, just take it a little bit to the left, please. Yeah. Come back, Zach.
His reversing needs to be perfect.
Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. A little bit more left. 4 inches. A bit more, bit more. Right, Luke, straight up. Keep coming, 4 inches, 3 inch. Right, Luke, straighten the wheels. Right, come back again, Zach. About 2 inches. Stop there.
That's actually spot on, that is that. Yeah, I'm happy there.
1 hurdle down. Now they need to roll the engine from the trailer onto the storage facility's tracks.
Okay, there's one here then.
Yeah.
They remove the chains.
1 more will do it.
Traditionally, engines can be rolled off these trailers, but they can't do that here.
Sometimes, it doesn't always happen, the loco won't roll. So then what we do is attach a chain to the forklift, and he will just assist, just pulling it while we let the winch out, holding it on the winch.
They hook up a forklift to do the heavy hauling.
If you could just take the strain, please.
The forklift gently pulls the engine forwards. Zach stands by with wooden chocks to use as an emergency brake under the wheels to stop the engine if it rolls too fast or too far. But there's a problem.
He's just trying to go over a shim now, so he's just going to have to give it a little tickle.
This join in the rails makes it hard for the forklift to pull the 77-ton engine any further.
Could you just ease back and then go forward again? It's on a join in the trailer, it's just... You might just have to give it a little jolt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going. Nice and gently forward again.
They've done it. The steam locomotive is safely back on rails. Offloading the engine has been slow going, and there's still the tender to go. Luke has an idea to keep everyone motivated.
If you two are good today, I might treat you to an ice cream later.
Oh, cheers, Dad.
Now it's Colin's turn in the driving seat to unload the tender.
Try it all over again now. We'll see how we get on.
follow it round, Carl.
The smaller load gives him a clear view of where he's heading.
Go on. Right, nice and steady. We're just 6 inches off the rail. Nice and steady. Go on. Nice and steady. Go on. Rail is in the cup, so 4 inch, come back. 3, 2, 1, woo. That'll do for me there, Lee. Handbrake on.
Safely docked, they can move the tender onto the track. The forklift takes the strain.
Just gently, Lou.
I want it to keep rolling if it will now.
Zach's on board to control the brake.
Keep going. Go on. Leave it, leave it.
Go on.
The tender is 30 tons lighter than the engine, so it's much easier to handle.
Is that all right, Carl?
Yeah.
Those brakes tight, Carl.
Yeah, they are.
Tight,
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. This classic steam engine and tender are safely in storage, and Luke delivers on his promise.
Top bloke you are, Luke.
I'm a top bloke.
For the train truckers, it's job done.
You're all right, actually.
They are, yeah.
Might have to get another one.
Storage director Frank Martin can get a close look at the new arrival.
Absolutely fantastic. Every little detail is just wonderfully engineered, beautifully finished. You never normally get to see a locomotive this close up from the ground. So the idea of being able to stand by a driving wheel and the whole thing towering above you is fantastic.
Now safely undercover, the Great Western Railway's Revenningham Hall and its tender will stay in Margate until it's had a full service. And hopefully it won't be long before it's back on the tracks at Severn Valley Railway in Shropshire.
It's a locomotive I'm very fond of. We have original Great Western carriages that we put behind it, and it's an ex-Great Western Railway branch line. It really does look at home when it's operating here.